Just got dumped for this reason. I totally understand and just wish they had told me sooner. What was your reason? Hey, I did not expect to get this many responses. I appreciate it, and I am writing this down to do better. Story 1. Constantly being upset or negative about everything. Life is balance. It will never be all good. There will always be something bad in your life that irritates you. How you handle not getting what you want is important, and most people cannot deal with it. Story 2. She wasn't trying. She became comfortable and complacent, stopped being grateful for what we had, and over time dropped more and more of the load on me. She would only sacrifice what she wanted and refused to sacrifice when it was needed. I tried to keep her happy, but she stopped trying to make me happy. I know in the end we are responsible for our own happiness, but you still need to try to make your partner smile from time to time. If the whole relationship becomes only about one person's happiness, don't be surprised if the other falls out of love. Story 3. I married my ex after 10 years of planning a child-free life traveling together. However, by our first official anniversary, she told me she wanted us to move to the suburbs and have children as soon as possible. That was the end. She had a child with someone else within a year of our split. A couple of years later, I connected with a woman I had known when she reached out, telling me she was moving back to my city. We flirted long distance over the summer. When I finally went to meet her, she showed up 7 months pregnant and only had negative things to say about the child's father. Story 4. I wouldn't say this made me fall out of love with this woman, but we were in a budding relationship, and it was a massive turnoff. We were out to brunch after a late night and talking. She said, "Can I tell you something? The other day I was shopping and spent like $800. That night, my father called me and yelled at me. Can you believe that? Forget him." I smiled nervously and nodded. Brunch was over and I went home. That was the last time I saw her. Someone who treats their father like that is going to treat me way worse. It wasn't all bad though. She gave me my first intimate experience, and it was dynamite. Story 5. They were not able to share life with me. She was not willing to fend for herself, and it would have meant I had to do everything all the time. The pressure would have been too much to handle, so it had to end, unfortunately. Story 6. They kept talking about the same thing repeatedly to the point where I thought, all right, I get it, you have told me this story 5 times. Story 7. It is when a woman decides to test my boundaries and gets offended by every single word, even though I am really polite and kind to her. Also, when a woman wants to be with me all the time, it is off-putting and suffocating. Story 8. Blaming everything on her anxiety. My word, not everything is a trigger unless that trigger is meant to control a situation. My ex forced me to leave my own birthday party after an hour because she could not handle a few family friends and my parents. Story 9. That no amount of effort on my part would make her better. She would have to do that herself. 25 years later, she contacted me and told me I was right all along. She is still an addict too, and has a host of many other problems. I dodged the bullet of a lifetime. Story 10. Hey, I got dumped 29 months ago, and I was hurting for a good half a year. But most of my pain was when I found out 2 months later she started sleeping with other guys. That was probably the most pain I have ever endured. Knowing somebody I was with for 3.5 years, who I wanted to propose to, trashed everything and tried to replace me 2 months later. That was also the moment I truly fell out of love. I knew I would never be okay with being replaced by another man. It was her choice to do this. 9 months later, I can never see her as the same person ever again. Story 11. I was in a 4.5-year relationship. We both did a lot of growing because it was our first real relationship. I am not free from fault. Looking back, there were many things I could have improved on and done better much sooner. I just felt that the stages of our lives when we reached the 4-year mark were not where I wanted to be. Financially and career-wise, I did most of the heavy lifting. To some extent, because of the duties I had in our relationship, I began feeling like an older sibling in terms of responsibilities to look after her. I know that is normal in a relationship, but to the degree I was doing it, I just felt we were in different stages of life. I wish her the best, and I hope that she began her career, but I have no regrets about my decision to end it. knowing that my heart was no longer in the right place. Story 12. I had a tendency to be a people pleaser and someone who loved another person's potential rather than who they really were. My last ex was no exception, unfortunately. She was selfish and a professional victim with a pretty bad mental illness. She said it was anxiety, but I suspected borderline personality disorder with the help of my therapist at the time. I never pried about it. We were long distance for about half a year, and I did all of the traveling to her, which I didn't mind at the time. The straw that broke the camel's back was when she pushed me to move in with her. I knew there would be no opportunities for me where she was based, and I was barely halfway through a postgraduate certificate, not even ready to consider next steps. After a bunch of fights and her playing almost every trick in the book to try to convince me, including a week-long silent treatment labeled as a break, it finally hit me that she was never going to be the partner I wanted her to be. I was never going to have my needs met, and I was only going to exist to serve her, much like her parents' relationship. I called her and ended it, and while it was an extremely ugly breakup, it felt like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. Now, I am not afraid to say no to things I don't want to do, and I am not afraid to live my life the way I want to. If people have a problem with the decisions I make, they can cope. I am now happily married. My wife is the best, and I am happy to serve her as she is to serve me. Story 13. The effort was one-sided. Many times, it felt like the feelings were also one-sided, which was unfortunate. They claimed a year prior, when I brought it up, that it wasn't one-sided because they had told me years earlier that if we met in person and I asked them out, they would say yes and maybe we would hit it off. However, that was a long time ago, and they had said before that they had changed and were not the same person. They have not shown or said anything to suggest the feelings were mutual since then. How was I supposed to know it wasn't one-sided when I often felt like just an acquaintance? In fact, I have felt ignored and neglected many times while waiting for them to make time for me or open up more. Looking through very old chats from years ago, I saw a few times when they seemed to like me more than a friend. They would say things like how they missed me. Rarely, but it happened. These days, they never say that and rarely ask how I am, even though I regularly ask how they are. I have made plans to visit them many times in the past, and every single time they caused the plans to be canceled. They are unfortunately flaky, which makes it hard for me to trust them anymore. At this point, I have no plans to visit because I have been let down too many times. I really needed a vacation this year, but now I will have to wait at least another year before going anywhere. I still care about them, but I have been hurt too many times. Story 14. She was constantly negative and always complained. She lost her good job because she got drunk and blamed others. She rarely said thank you for the things I did, even though I did a lot. They were expected because I was her boyfriend. She never took accountability. She would get drunk and drive home. She never truly apologized. When she did, it was insincere and unconvincing. She gave me occasional, minimal praise. It was very rare that she acknowledged the good job I was doing. Story 15. Someone treated her very badly, and she did not even seem to care that she was being treated that way. She will not let me stand up for her either. Story 16. I still had feelings for someone else and couldn't fully separate myself from it. I also realized it felt like a majority of our relationship was based around sex. I have since gotten over both women and am hoping to do better with my current girlfriend. I want to focus our relationship more on trust and care than physical intimacy. I'm sorry you got dumped. It is one of the worst feelings, at least in the moment and afterward. I hope you are able to see that they were not the right person for you and that ending things is an opportunity for you to find the right person. Story 17. Nothing I ever did was enough. When she was displeased, she would ignore me. She did not talk to me the day my dad had a heart attack because she thought I did not need to see him. She expected me to stay home and help with the chores. She kept adding more financial pressure on me. She did not pay her half of the rent. She never visited my family with me and always made it hard for them to visit. But she always had her family over. She insulted me when she was drunk and told her mother I was a slave to my job. I ignored all the times I told her our finances were bad and she needed to get a job. Despite all of that, I felt a sick kind of love for her, knowing it was tearing me apart. I took her out for dinner, and she told me, "I do not think this is the life I want." I decided right there that since I was never going to be enough, I might as well not be there at all. Story 18. People grow, and sometimes people just grow apart. Just because who I was 3 years ago loved who you were 3 years ago does not mean our current selves will love each other. Story 19. We did not grow together. We grew apart, and the void between us consumed the relationship. By the time we realized what had happened, it was really too late for marriage counseling. After a few sessions, I realized I just did not love him anymore and could not see how I ever would again. We were too different in every possible way, and we never laughed anymore. We never had fun. We had become robots staying for the children. Story 20. I was with a partner for about 3 years, and he treated me very well. However, what made me fall out of love was when he made me his whole purpose in life. Everything was for me. He always wanted to be with me, and it was suffocating. I started to fall out of love because I realized that I was his world, but he wasn't mine. It sounds strange, as many people may want their partners to be obsessed with them, but I wanted my partner to have their own life and spend time with their friends and family. It was the whole codependency that was a deal breaker for me, which led to the end of our relationship. Story 21. Lack of accountability. I imagined a whole life with that man, and I was more than ready to put in the work for it. No matter how much effort I put in, he never could bring himself to be responsible. He refused to get a job, refused to finish his high school education, refused to get his license. He wanted to either live off his dad or me. As much as we loved each other and as great as he treated me, I couldn't allow myself to take care of him forever. I wanted a life where we took care of each other, and I needed someone I could count on to be reliable. I'm really happy I have found that with my current partner. It's so hard to feel free when you can't feel safe with someone completely. Story 22. Uncovering many lies that my former partner had tried to cover up. The breakup was difficult, but discovering that my trust had been betrayed absolutely broke my heart. The rose-colored glasses came off, and I saw them for who they really were rather than who I thought they were. Nothing is quite like betrayal to make you fall out of love. Story 23. She stopped putting effort into herself. She gained a lot of weight and changed to a horrible job that barely pays her so she would have more free time, which she used watching YouTube or playing on her mobile phone. The physical attraction was gone. How can you love someone who wants you to pay for everything and does nothing in return? She gained a significant amount of weight, about 10 kilograms in 4 months we dated. Story 24. Addiction to sports gambling. However, I would say addiction of any kind is the opposite of connection. You cannot be in a healthy relationship as an addict, in my humble opinion. Story 25. Lack of initiative. The person is trying, but I feel like I am guiding him step by step, and it is not enough. It is frustrating because he is genuinely a nice person, but I cannot be the one directing every single thing. I am still trying. Story 26. Despite saying they cared about anything that was bothering me, they made it clear through their behavior that they did not. They simply thought their way was always the right way and would defend it, always pointing the finger back at me. I have yet to meet an emotionally mature, attractive woman. They are out there, I'm sure, probably married early, but looks alone cannot cover up a lack of kindness and empathy. Story 27. He farted so much and thought it was so funny that I was so disgusted by it that I completely fell out of love with him. He grossed me out badly. Anyone else who passes gas in my face should leave the room and have a bit of respect. Story 28. I've only been in love twice. The first time I was young, used, and a doormat. Everyone kept telling me how awful she was to me and that they were sure she was seeing someone on the side. After 2 years of living together, I finally realized they were right about all of it. I left. Falling out of love with her took some years, and several decent women paid the price. I treated them like she treated me. Once I got serious with my wife, I cleaned up my act, and over time, I let myself love her. She gets huge points for staying with me until that happened. Story 29. A secret homeless roommate and ex-boyfriend stayed at her place for a few months, or so I am told. That was 8 years ago. I still feel like a stone inside and am sober now, Feels like a swampy Yoda life for me. I want to go back, but I am like the guy at the table meme. Life alone rules. Change my mind. Story 30. I think that is more common to happen with women. The moment one day she decides she does not love you anymore, the entire relationship begins to go rocky. Men tend to remain stable throughout the relationship. Even if they find another partner, it does not really change much between you and the main partner. They come and go. Story 31. She said she fell out of love with me because when we dated long distance, it was more exciting. I told her if she wanted excitement, she should go see a movie. No hard feelings, but it was for the best, at least for me. Story 32. I convinced myself she was a kind-hearted person with poor impulse control until she got tired of being who she thought I wanted and came out as terribly mean. Story 33. At around the 2-year point, I suddenly became conscious again and realized that all the things I thought they were doing, or thought they were, turned out to not be true. Story 34. Not the main reason, but one of them. I have always been a hard person to buy gifts for, and I hate it as much as everyone else. On my last birthday, when my ex asked what I wanted, it was probably the only time in our 6.5 years together that I knew what I wanted. All I asked was for him to pay for my nails once, and he looked at me and said he did not want to do that. Then he got me something I did not even like or want. Story 35. She was immature. She was a gorgeous woman and seemed to check all the boxes. Once, we went on a picnic in a field and my dad called me because he needed me to feed his animals since he would not be home that day. I did not have the keys to his house, so he said he would drive to us to give them to me. I thought perfect timing. He could meet this girl as well. I was wrong. The moment my dad pulled in, the woman started running in the field like a wild bunny trying to hide in the grass. She did not come back to me until my dad left, and she said she was too nervous to meet my parents. Nervous to meet them, but not nervous to act like that? The next day, she told me she was jealous of me spending time with my little sister. My sister was about 7 years old then. That was it for me. Story 36. I found out she was dating someone else a week after we broke up. She told me she was pregnant with another man's child and wanted to stay friends since we worked together. I declined. She got engaged a month later. For the 3 months after we broke up, she complained to coworkers that I wouldn't say hi or talk to her anymore. She couldn't understand why I had no desire to speak with her after wasting 6 months of my life. Story 37. I used to take my ex-girlfriend and roommate to work many times. They didn't have cars and we were all very close. They would pay me, but I was a relaxed person back then. After my ex-girlfriend told me that she had slept with my roommate on my birthday, everyone was upset with her. A week later, she cried and told me that she and he planned to tell me during our college graduation. She said she wished she had never told me she cheated, not the cheating itself. My self-esteem went through a roller coaster of anger, especially since I still had to live with him for 7 more months while he was with his new girlfriend in our shared room, the same room where he had been with me. Then, he had the audacity to ask how I was doing months after we graduated. The utter disrespect towards me did not make me stop loving her. It made me stop having empathy toward people in general. I miss my old self so much. Story 38. You wake up one morning and realize this is not it. I felt that way with the person I was with before my wife. 3 years and I just did not see a future, or at least the future I wanted and expected. So I ended it. There was nothing in particular that was wrong. There was just a whole lot of not quite right, and I knew I could do much better. Story 39. We met at work and fell deeply in love within a few months. We dated for a total of more than 3 years. Then one day, my head suddenly stopped fooling my heart. As soon as I realized that I was not and was never going to be his true love because that title already belonged to someone else named Tito, I fell out hard and fast. Story 40. He made a mistake, and I let it slide and forgave him. Then he made the same mistake again, and I didn't say anything. He apologized and tried to make it up to me. I just watched and observed if he truly meant his apology. But it kept happening repeatedly until I didn't care if he made another mistake. I got tired and went numb. His apologies didn't feel sincere anymore. I grew cold and eventually broke up with him. He didn't cheat. It was just the small mistakes I thought didn't matter, but over time they added up. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.